Thoughts on my grandfather's 19th Yahrtzeit. Hi, I'm Sammy, I'm that nerdy YouTuber, and today I'm going to be talking about my experiences with grief. My grandfather was my best friend. He was the only father figure I really knew as a kid, since my actual bio dad pretty much abandoned me. And the day he died, I remember feeling a part of me die with him. I think it was the part of me that was carefree and innocent and didn't really know much about the cold evil of the world, for lack of a better phrase. There are several things that I remember about the immediate aftermath of his death. The first was that the day he died, my mom took me over to their house, to Grandma and Grandpa's house. And my mom, or my grandma, I don't remember which one of them asked me if I wanted to go see him and say goodbye. And I said no. I don't know why I said no. I should have said yes. I should have said goodbye. I should have hugged him one last time. But I think 9-year-old me was a little obsessed with zombie movies. And I guess I was afraid that he would come back and try to eat my brains. That's what I mean when I say kids think, do, and say dumb shit all the time. Grandpa passed away on January 30th of 2006. I couldn't tell you the Hebrew date or when the next official Hebrew Yahrtzeit of his will occur. All I can tell you for sure is that January 30th, 2006 is the day that is and likely forever will be burned into my brain as that dark day. I'd give anything to ask his advice on something, anything. The moment that really sticks out to me is a couple of days after he died was the funeral, and I had never been to a funeral before. I remember feeling like I had died with him. And I was 9, I didn't fully understand death. All I knew about death at the time was that it took our pets. I remember every mirror in Grandma's house was covered. And I remember that was the first time I ever had black coffee with no creamer in it. I don't know why I remember that, I just know that I remember that. Grief is funny that way. It makes you remember and forget things that you wouldn't think you would need to remember or forget. Even now, 19 years later, a world without Grandpa in it still doesn't feel right. I can't help but wonder if he would be proud of me, of the person I've become. I'll always miss him. I will never not miss him. And one of the things I regret the most, aside from not giving myself the chance to actually say goodbye to him, was how I can barely remember what he looked like now. I think about all the times that I interacted with him, and I remember that it happened. I know that it happened. But it's like I'm not in the main scene at all. It's like I'm in the background watching something else happen that doesn't really mean much to me. And his image is getting fuzzier and fuzzier in my head every single day. And I don't remember really what his voice sounded like either. I'd have to watch my old home movies for that. My grandfather's birthday was on Christmas Day of 1940, which is the only reason we ever celebrated Christmas when I was a kid. His favorite movie was Blazing Saddles, which is why in my family, Blazing Saddles is absolutely a Christmas movie. We always have his hospital ID badge because he was a doctor, and we always use that as a Christmas tree ornament. And I really like that custom. I also have some of his perfume, and by perfume I just mean fancy Jamaican rum cologne. To this day, it still makes me think about him. Now I can't help but wonder if he'd be proud of me, the person I've become. And there's so much I wish I could tell him to this day. I wish I could tell him I love you one last time. I wish I could have given myself the chance to say goodbye. But I didn't. It's preyed on me every day since. There's a line in Grey's Anatomy when the patient dies and leaves behind a young son. Something that Christina Yang says to him after she gets the news. There's a club, the Dead Dads Club, and you can't be in it until you're in it. And I felt that because I've been in that club since January 30th, 2006. I've been in that club since that dark day. My fondest memories of him were listening to music with him, going on his boat, because he kept at least 2 or 3 sailboats that I know about. And one of them was named after me, the Morgana Ruth. Ruth is my middle name. And I think he was at his happiest, either on a boat or in a kitchen. Because after he died, we found a whole bunch of his old recipes on his computer. And my mom had them bound into a cookbook, which I still have to this day. Although most of those recipes are likely not kosher, I still keep them around because sentimentality. And I am nothing if not nostalgic. So much of who I am today comes from my experiences with Grandpa. I remember helping him and Grandma out with their gardens. I remember there were always house plants to water. There were always fruit trees to take care of, to tie up netting to keep the birds out. And I think ultimately that's why I went into horticulture, to honor my grandfather. And it was also a COVID hobby / ADHD hyperfocus, and probably other things that I'm forgetting. On this day in 2021, I didn't even think about him. And that still haunts me. And it's not just the standard Jewish guilt that we all know and hate. I have Jewish guilt on my mom's side of the family and Irish Catholic guilt on my bio dad's side of the family. I would be more surprised if I didn't need therapy. Growing up, I was always in my synagogue's youth group, which always went to an event called Relay for Life. I'm not sure if they still have that today, at least in that area. But I remember when they would call out for families of people who had died of cancer, I would always call Grandpa's name. I would always make a paper lantern with him because it was thyroid cancer that got him in the end. Between my mom and my grandpa, I've been going to hospitals all my life. I'm used to it by now, but they still smell like death to me. Death and cleaner, in that order, and bad food. And I hate that his memory is getting so fuzzy in my brain. I can barely remember what he looked like or what he sounded like. I only remember the impact he had on me. In the space of 19 years, he's gone from crystal clear picture in my mind to this fuzzy, faceless figure that I barely remember anymore. And I hate that. I hate that that's what grief has done to me. But I don't think there is any right or wrong way to grieve. The space between Christmas, his birthday, and today, his Yahrtzeit, is literally less than a month apart. I'm always a hot, emotional mess this time of year. After he died, my mom made me a little scrapbook of all of my favorite pictures and memories of him. And every time I look through it, I tear up a little. Because of not just how much I miss him, but how much of an impact he has on me even now. Because he is my Jewish hero. And what I mean by that is, there's a family story about how he saved a Torah scroll from a burning synagogue. And I always thought that made him heroic in my eyes, but there's so much I didn't know about that story that I didn't discover until recently. See, I thought that the fire was set just by some careless janitor that didn't put their cigarette out right. But no, it wasn't that. It was worse. It was anti-Semitism, because they found swastikas written in the parking lot and in the basement of the synagogue. The caretaker had started a rag fire. This video is dedicated to the memory of my grandfather. About a week after he died, I had gone back to school, taken time off to grieve. And I was in a home daycare at the time, in an after-school program. And I remember something set me off. I don't remember what it was, but something set me off, and I started blubbering like a baby over Grandpa. And the teacher of some daycare said something that I will never forget. Your still crying. Because there absolutely has to be a time limit on grief. How could you say something? How could anybody say something like that? Something so callous to a kid who just lost essentially their only father figure. That's not right. That's not right. Yid Gadal Vid Kadash Shemei Rabbah Yalma Jibrach Yerate V'Yamich Malchute V'Chayachon of Yamachon of Chai Dechol Beit Yisrael V'Agala V'Zman Kari V'Milami Hishmei Rabbah Mivarach V'Olam Omeil Maya Yid Barach V'Yishavach V'Yidbar V'Yitramam V'Yidnasei V'Yitalar V'Yitadar V'Yitala V'Yitalal Shemei Kedusha B'Reichu Le'lam Min Kol B'Fata V'Shirata Kush B'Fata V'Nechamata Amiram Yom